Not so good.
Oh, that's funny.
All right. We are ready.
Counselor Belts is.
Well, oh, sorry. I was just going to have you record it and then I'll call.
I already did.
Oh, we're being recorded.
I'm already recording.
Sorry. I will call to order the meeting of Tuesday, August 16th of them on the city council and get that roll call, please.
Okay, Counselor Belts is excused. Counselor Carey,
Here.
Counselor Lopez,
Here.
Counselor McKeel,
Here.
Counselor Oberst,
Here.
Counselor Salinas Oliveros,
Here.
Mayor Coons.
I am present and I'm going to ask Councilor Carey to lead us in the pledge.
We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Tonight we will get through our agenda. We just have our we have items before us in both business agenda and work session. We will then adjourn to the Urban Renewal Agency Board, which has one piece of business before it this evening. We'll start off with our consent calendar. That includes the minutes of the council meeting of August 2nd. Were there any corrections or additions to those minutes?
I just have one.
Okay.
Yeah, just a technicality, page 4, where Council McKeel added that the Spanish Latinx Heritage Celebration, it's actually Hispanic Latinx Heritage Celebration. So just switching those words. Yeah.
Right. A motion to approve with that slight correction.
I move.
Thank you. A second.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor McKeel, for the motion and Councilor Lopez for the second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. And that takes us to public comments, the time when we would receive comments from the public regarding items not on the agenda this evening. Seeing none here in the room, and check with Phyllis to see if anything was submitted prior to the meeting or anyone identified online.
I have received no comments, Mayor Coons.
Thank you. That takes us right into our business agenda this evening. And we're going to start off with one of our committee, our advisory board meetings. And we have Barbara Cronin, our senior and community center director, on the line with us. And here in the room, we have Pat Olson, our senior advisory board chair, who can step up to the microphone. And we will get more in-depth updates than I am able to give on the incredible work going on in our senior center. Barbara might have stepped away.
I am here. I'm going to welcome Pat Olson along with you to provide, he's the chair of our senior advisory board and has been for a number of years, and he has a wonderful report prepared to share with council, and I'm available to answer any questions that he can't.
Okay. First of all, I want to give you greetings from the advisory board members. As a representative of the advisory board tonight, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here and give you a report on the activities of the Senior Community Center for the past year. The report will be in 3 main parts: the expansion of our board's membership territory, the new check-in procedure, and our board's current work on goal setting. The expansion of the board's territory membership from which we can draw has expanded our capabilities. On behalf of the board, I want to thank the council for allowing us to expand our board membership with its safeguards, of course, to include more than one member from outside Monmouth. This not only solved a recruitment problem, but has allowed us to access a pool of very diverse and talented people that we were unable to access before. For example, we have a current college professor from the gerontology department at WU. We also have a professor emeritus whose research focused on aging and social issues for the aging. We also have another retired college professor who is an elder law attorney and also the chair of a civil rights for seniors organization. Another board member is a director with the Chamber of Commerce here in this area. Another is a Polk County Behavioral Health older adult specialist. With our past members' talents coupled with the current new members' talents, this has given us access to a diverse pool of resources we have not had before. A second thing that has expanded our capabilities is the new check-in system, which went active in April. That is a very big hit. Seniors often seem to have a reputation for one reason or another of shying away from technology. This is not the case in this check-in system. This is easy to use and fun. More members are using it than they were with the old clipboard system, which was very bulky and cumbersome to use and track. The new system has allowed us to better track the use of the center and the utilization of the variety of classes and activities that we offer. For instance, it is worth noting that we continue to draw membership from 12 different cities around Monmouth, including Monmouth itself. Since April, the daily average sign-in is 28 people with a total of 2,160 sign-ins since April. This represents a total of 9,960 hours spent at the center in various classes and activities. The menu on the check-in allows for someone staying for multiple activities in one visit, which we did not know before. And also the length of time in each. So that's why it comes out to 9,000 some hours. We would never have known or been able to track this before. The total number of those using the system is 435 members. Lastly, the board has set a couple of short-term goals and are working on setting some long-term goals. One short-term goal is refurbishing and updating the kitchen. A kitchen committee has been established. It is composed of members from the advisory board, the Friends Board, and the Meals on Wheels people. A more long-term goal the board is working on is how the senior center can better serve the community in the areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We had a brainstorming session last month and will continue to work on refining these things this month and in the future as well, leading towards some goals. Another long-term goal is becoming part of a national network of senior centers. This goal is on hold, though, right now, as the National Association is reorganizing. So once that has finished, we will continue on our participation in that process. So opening up our board's territorial membership has allowed us to access additional resources for the center. The new check-in system has speeded up the sign-in process and helped us track statistics much better. And we are back to working on setting goals to guide us into the future. As we look to the future, we are slowly getting back on track to where we were prior to the pandemic. thank you for the opportunity to report tonight, and thank you for your time. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Counselor Lopez.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Mr. Olson, for the report. It sounds like a lot of wonderful things are going on, and that's just really fantastic to hear. I'm particularly interested in your DEI initiatives, your diversity and equity inclusion initiatives. How do you see that? How do you see that coming about here through the senior center? Are you able to share any secrets?
I think I can a little bit. We haven't refined everything yet, but with our contacts at Western Oregon, we're hoping that with their celebrations in those areas, we might be able to utilize the center in some way to go along with those celebrations and open up the center on some of those days. You know, those are just ideas right now. It's nothing's written in stone yet, but that was just one idea that came out of this. We're looking at the possibility of some other things happening, and that too. We had, oh gosh, it seemed like there were at least 150 ideas that came out of that brainstorming session. So we're just looking to refine things right now. I would say 1 million ideas, but
That's fantastic.
we had a good brainstorming session.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
You know, I would comment that on your, the way you're able to track hours
Yes,
and tie those hours directly to activities. That's
Yes.
got to be really helpful in your programming decisions.
It is extremely helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I can,
Yes.
you know, now you can say, well, you know, we've been doing this for years and it's been very successful. We're going to keep it up. Other things maybe we've been doing for years and it's not working so well, so maybe we need to look elsewhere. I think that's
The
really
software system, I'm sorry, the software system actually tracks trends over time as well. So pulling a random thing, bingo, for example, you can see attendance over time for any given activity. And like you said, John, that's extremely useful information for whether or not you want to continue a specific route or not. So, and the greatest thing about the system is all of that stuff we tracked previously was manually input one number at a time into an Excel spreadsheet. This is data that I can just pull directly from the system already recorded, given people statistics, event statistics, trip statistics, all of it. So was definitely worth the investment.
Yeah, and I would think that that would be an excellent way to market your center and our center and to attract and recruit new members. You know, if you
Yes.
like bingo and you mentioned it, you know, we play bingo all the time. We got a bunch of people that are here. We got like, you know, 28 a day when we play. So there's lots of fun. Come on down. I just think it can be really I mean, that's a great deal.
Well, what's surprising is that if you were to walk in here any day, you would see how quiet it is, and you would say, well, gee, they're not using this building that much. It's not being utilized. It actually really is when you look at the statistics.
And I disagree, Pat. I think you strike me as a real techie.
I'm sorry.
You're a real techie, you know, a real technical guy, bite head.
Okay.
You know all that, you know all that stuff. You're out in front, man.
Well, thank you. Well, a lot of the seniors are too. And that part's been very surprising because a lot of seniors shy away from it. But this has been kind of a fun thing to use. Yes.
Yeah, I thank you. Great report. Thanks, all the great things. I just would like to applaud the senior center, and I'll probably say the name wrong, but the idea to have a lotteria
And Barbara, if you could, or Pat, either one of you could talk about that. I just think it's a really great program that's been started recently.
Sure.
Thank
It was
you.
really just a jumping off point, and I agree. It's been so much fun. Back when we had 2 summer interns last year, we got a lot of wonderful, great ideas from both of those individuals for the center. And one of the interns that we had was bilingual and really connected to Spanish speakers in the community. He happens to live in Salem, so he's not as involved. But one thing that he really wanted to help start and keep going was getting some sort of bilingual programming started at the center. And he also has connected me with a couple other individuals at Western in the Multicultural Center and a couple other departments to keep some of that going with volunteers. But Alejo has actually come back to run Loteria month to month, and helped me advertise some. He's going to, in the fall, be able to jump in and help with some of that as well, and help me utilize some extra volunteers in the community to get the word out more about that particular event. It's ebbed and flowed in its popularity, but it's something that I'd like to keep going. And word of mouth is a lot of way that kind of thing spreads when people realize, oh, there's a thing going on over there, and it seems like fun. And one of the things that I think makes it a big success is that it's not just Spanish speakers and bilingual people coming in. It's seniors from the community, it's Spanish speakers, it's a kind of a mix of people that want to know what Loteria is or have enjoyed it in the past. And that's something that I think really brings about the senior community center part of our name. So I'm excited to keep that kind of thing going and find new ways to do that as well.
Yeah, one of the things I would like to see us work on is in the area of diversity is making this a little bit more of a community center as well. So that's been kind of something I've had on my back burner. But how to go about doing that, I'm not quite sure yet, but we're working on it.
Love it.
And as a reminder, the advisory board has great partnership with the Friends of the Monmouth Senior Center. And those folks do provide a lot of the fundraising for activities. And they are back at it with our Saturday breakfast, first Saturday of the month, and upcoming soup and pie, Barbara.
Yes, the cat isn't totally out of the bag yet because they're making the final decision this Thursday at their meeting, but it's very, very, very possible, barring any big, huge uptick in COVID cases in our county, that soup and pie will be back on in October.
Yeah.
Very excited about that myself.
All right. No other questions. Thank you, Pat.
Okay, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not like you don't spend enough time here, Patrick. Had to come in the evening as well. So
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, Barbara, for checking in and keeping us updated. We have an action item this evening regarding an OLCC report. We often get those reports from the investigators in our police department, and it looks like tonight Phyllis Bowman, our city recorder, will be making this report in their stead.
Honorable Mayor and Council, you have in your packet a request by the SIPRI to change their liquor license to a full on-premises, which means that they want to go from what they can serve right now to be able to serve cocktails with their put cocktails on their menu, and there were no issues or problems found with the business. So we are asking to make a recommendation to OLCC in favor of approving the change to their liquor license.
Okay, Councilor McKeel.
Any questions?
I was just going to jump in with a motion. So I move to send OLCC a recommendation in favor of approving a change of liquor license for the SIPRI.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor McKeel, for the motion, and Councilor Lopez for the second. Any discussion?
I think, and it's a comment, and it'll be brief, but I think this is a business that's worked hard to succeed, and they're finding another way, to broaden their appeal and their service. And they're good members of the community, and I think it's a good move for them. Good for them, in fact.
Agreed.
Step out a little bit.
They have fantastic avocado toast.
Ooh.
In case you were looking for avocado toast, yeah,
I'm just
you'll
noting
be able to
that.
have a cocktail with that. All right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. All right, thank you for that. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you.
And our next item, consider adoption of resolution approving the long-awaited Highway 99 bicycle pedestrian connection study that Councilor Oberst has reported on to us many times. And I think Russ Cooper, our Public Works Director, will get us all the details here. Russ?
Thank you, Mayor Coons, members of council. Yes, tonight a resolution is brought before you to adopt the Highway 99 bicycle ped. Somebody's knocking in the background. I'm sorry. That's why I'm smiling. My background.
Yeah.
Is to adopt the Highway 99 bicycle and pedestrian connection study, which was a fairly lengthy process of engaging citizens, stakeholder groups, and the Oregon Department of Transportation in taking an in-depth look at the Highway 99 corridor and looking at it as a barrier to travel both along Highway 99 as well as crossing Highway 99. And through stakeholder outreach and a couple of surveys, the study identified a number of concerns that citizens had, issues with traveling in the corridor there. And then it also worked at identifying a number of solutions for those issues. In the end, it resulted in the study that is in your packet that has a list of 15 individual projects that when implemented will improve user experience along the corridor. When I kind of look at these projects, I actually see them as, for the most part, as three distinct areas that need improvement. And one is at the north end of town, or as you enter Monmouth from the north, and the biggest of the projects is the Church Street intersection. So when I look at that intersection, it also includes, and the report identifies it, that before the city embarks on that, they should also do the speed study, look at implementing the speed indicator signs, all as part of an implementation package to that Church Street improvement. And then you move further south to the Main Street intersection. That's another area that has, some different challenges for bicycle riders, as well as pedestrians that maybe have what I'll just call slower mobility than many others. And so a lot of the projects there look to address how folks interact with the Main Street, and then move to the south end of town. And it's very similar to the north end. You've got this transitional zone between rural into an urban setting. And so when I look at that, you've got Madrona. We want to improve the crosswalk there and the visibility of pedestrians at that intersection. But along with that, we also want to make vehicle drivers aware that they're entering that transition zone, kind of wake them up with those with those speed indicator signs to help them know, hey, something's up. I'm not driving through the pretty countryside anymore. I need to start looking for pedestrians and things going on in front of us. So that's kind of how I, just real generally summarize the projects that are listed in the study. The purpose of the resolution for me primarily, one is just to get final close up and blessing of council on the project at hand, but it also positions these projects for additional grant funding. Some of the agencies want projects to be identified in approved plans, and so that's what we're hoping to do with this, is bring it to council, get your blessing on it so that it's in a plan. Moving from this particular study into, we're getting ready to embark on a transportation system plan update. And this study will help to inform the TSP process as well. But it's still, this is a recommendation, a guide for the city to kind of start moving forward with implementing some of these projects, but we'll kind of feed these into the transportation system plan. And so projects that are in this list will likely be identified in the TSP and will provide additional opportunity for stakeholder and citizen feedback during that process as well. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that there may be on specific projects or whatever you might have of interest in this.
Hey, I gotta interrupt you for a second. There's a broken water line over on Broad Street South. I've left a note and the address, my contact number. I'm out. You can get a hold of me later if you have questions.
Thank you.
I think they can deal with it tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm gonna go, so you can do your thing. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Hey,
Yeah.
Never a dull moment there.
Nope.
But I will be calling about a leak after I'm done with this little bit of conversation.
all right. If you don't need to step away and take care of that, Director Cooper, it looks like we have some questions for you. So,
Yeah.
Yep, Councilor Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you so much, Russ. This is a fantastic document. A lot in here and a handful of things that, I don't know that I'd heard of before that really make a lot of sense, such as the signal timing to allow for, or not the signal timing, but there was another thing in, gosh, it was to allow for lead time for pedestrians, 3 seconds for pedestrians to be able to begin crossing. A lot of that really makes a lot of sense, and wonderful to see it come. One thing that seemed at odds, or a couple pieces that seemed at odds with each other, are the Church Street pedestrian haven on 99 and Church, and the north leg widening of 99 when it's approaching Church to allow for a dedicated turn lane for southbound vehicles. Maybe there's something I'm missing here, but those seem contrary to each other.
Sure, that's a great question. So they're two separate projects. So when the study or the stakeholder process was initiated, we established some goals, and one of those goals was a feasibility goal, and the projects needed to be feasible in a relatively, I'll say, short window in time. And so when we went through the process, we identified that the best long-term improvement for Church Street intersection was to actually do that center turn lane. Now that takes what may seem like a relatively easy project and expands it to a very costly project when you start looking at reconstructing highway for quite a ways out. As far as the bridge would be the restricting factor in that construction project. A normal taper would actually probably be beyond the bridge. So it's a longer term project that the city should be moving toward in working with ODOT in getting a dedicated turn lane there. And at that time, the refuge island would be removed and replaced with the turn lane.
Gotcha. I think that makes a lot more sense. Different phases of that area. One that would address it more quickly, and another that would.
So I have a question if
Oh,
you're moving on to a different question.
Sure.
So I was wondering why the refuge island wasn't on the south side of that intersection.
That's
Like, why move it
that's
on the
another
north
great
side?
question.
Yeah, why have it on the north side when, yeah, okay.
So that's a I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. That is a result of the process. So the process was bringing stakeholders together and saying, what is going to work for everybody. So it's a mix of compromise, and it's a mix of the process. So if you have the schematic, which is on page 13 of the study report, what you may not recognize is the work that ODOT has put into that intersection in the previous improvement project for bicycle riders. We installed bike lanes, and you get to Church Street, and what is supposed to happen is the riders are supposed to move into what they call a protected corner, which is on the east side of 99, and then use the crosswalk to get across Highway 99, and then proceed north on the bike route, the dedicated paved bike route that parallels Highway 99. So I'll say from ODOT's perspective, they were not willing to compromise removal of that, and felt that it increased or decreased bicycle rider safety by moving to the south side. It was certainly discussed and promoted, but in the end, getting all the parties to agree on what was acceptable, moving it to the south was not an acceptable option for ODOT.
So are we staying on this, or did you have other questions?
Yeah, well, I wanted to speak a little bit more about the intersection crossings in general. This as well as the Madrona crossing.
Okay, I'm did you have something, Councilor Oberst and then Councilor Carey, on this specific question?
So Russ and I had a good long talk today. I kind of gave him a heads up that I was not happy with the Church Street intersection portion. Everything else in this report for me works pretty well. When we had our walk and talk with ODOT, where we started at the police station, went all the way down to Gwynn and back, it was mentioned at that point that ODOT was very proud of the little green crescent that leads to crossing the highway if you're northbound on a bike and taking the paved bike route from there north. It was an innovative solution to the problem that they had there with people continuing north on the shoulder and then saying, oh. And okay, so they view that it actually is was mentioned that it's a cover image in a ODOT publication. They're that proud of it, and so my sense is that more than anything, for right now anyway, that's part of what's driving the north leg piece. The notion that it's better to have kids cross Highway 99 and then walk across the police driveway than it is to have bicyclists cross Highway 99 and then turn north and go across the police driveway. I'll take adults on a bicycle over kids making that crossing any day. I think, to me, this treatment is short-sighted, and for the reason mentioned, that let's build these islands and then convince ODOT later that we want to tear them out and widen the highway going north so we can put in a left turn lane. I'm concerned that once those islands go in, they're there for their duration. And you know, I really am concerned about that piece of it, that you're asking ODOT to spend taxpayer money and then come back in who knows how long before they'd be willing to even entertain that widening and tear out taxpayer money to put more taxpayer money in. You know, it's just the south leg, it aligns with the sidewalk that runs beside the police station, so the kids would cross and get away from the highway as quickly as possible. It gives about 40 to 60 additional feet of being in town for a southbound vehicle to say, oh, I'm in town, I better slow down. There's a crosswalk, et cetera. You know, that added safety margin of moving it south. As I mentioned, the kids won't have to cross the police driveway. It will allow for an easier later addition to that southbound left turn. The northbound right now has a turn pocket to turn into the police station. Not very many vehicles make that movement, and the ones that do are police cruisers. And if they have to make a left turn from the travel lane very few times a day versus the number of people who are turning left into Church Street, I don't think anybody's going to argue with a police cruiser that stopped in the travel lane to make a left turn, right? And it's going to put the left turn lane where the majority of people are turning left, and that's those southbound drivers. We've had some rear end accidents north of Church Street since the left turn, that, you know, the ability to squeeze past there. I was headed north one morning, and it was just seconds after a semi ran into the back of a car. Not hard, but ran into the back of a car. Whether that was ever reported, I don't know. It could have been exchange numbers and go on, you know, but I think that that's a problem. People are coming into town at 45, 50 miles an hour, and all of a sudden traffic stopped dead because somebody's trying to turn left into Church Street. So, you know, all those things combined make me really hesitant with this treatment. And then you go a little farther south and you get to, let's put islands in the southbound left turn lane at Jackson Street too.
Okay, and so we're going to stick, I want to.
Well, let me just, this is like 2 more sentences.
Don, I'm going to ask that we stick to this
Okay.
section because Councilor Lopez has the floor after this.
Okay, I have a big picture here, so.
I would speak in favor of this design
Okay,
because of the north side of that intersection is a straight line of full sidewalks, wide sidewalks from Monmouth Elementary.
that's a factor I didn't.
To use the south side is going to require kids to cross that. There are no sidewalks to speak of on the other side, on the south side of Church at the moment. There's a short little segment, but that's all. This is, to me, and you know, and I'm on side with everybody's concerned about building something so we can tear it down. Believe me, if you look at the little time clock, you know, it's about 55 minutes before we're going to get to, you know, that
Right.
expansion. And it's 5 minutes away, I mean, metaphorically, from the other one. And so I think it's a great idea. I think it's something, and it'll get us the turn, you know, the flashing beacons. And, you know, we'll cross the rest of it when we come to it. This is an immediate, relatively speaking, solution to a problem that's been going on for a long time. I mean, that's my neighborhood. And like it is yours, John. We go in and out of that all the time, and we see the potentials there. And so I think this is an excellent solution to start. There'll be a long-term later, but that's like, they're going to say, we just did a bunch of stuff. What do you want us to do this now? And Russ is right. That bridge is a pinch point.
No, it is.
And that'll be a problem. So I think it's a great idea, with all due respect to the transportation czar. The other end of the state.
So John, and thanks for that, because I did fail to mention that south side of Church Street sidewalks are part of the Safe Routes to School money that we're seeking. And so those could be there in short order. And if we made the decision, we could probably go ahead and do that now and forego grant money for those. But in either case, we're a year or two away from those sidewalks. We're probably a year or two away from this entire project. So, you know, I agree with you. The kids would want to cross at Sacred and then come up the south side of Church and make the crossing at the highway if that worked. We've got a block and a half of sidewalks that are missing there out of the 3 blocks. So 4 blocks.
Okay.
Thanks.
So Councilor Lopez, back to your other question.
Thank you. I had no idea that was going to be so interesting and in depth. What a can of worms. But it's good. Speaking of time frames, I'll note that this has the Church Street improvements noted at 5 to 10 year time frame, whereas the Madrona Street improvements, similar but in a different section of town, slated for less than 5 years completion time. And it's those Madrona Street improvements that I'd like to compare to this Church Street. If you look at Madrona Street, the RRFBs are proposed to be located on the, I guess, the inside of the bicycle lanes there. So kind of between the traffic lane and the bicycle lane, whereas the Church Street improvements, the RRFBs, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, are located kind of on the edge of the sidewalk. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit to that and why it would be constructed differently in different parts of town.
Yeah, so a little bit on the schedule real quickly. So we are already in the process of design and ODOT approval with the Madrona crosswalk. That was a project that's been, kind of led to this study, but we knew that it was going to be a work product of the study. So we've initiated that, hope to get that constructed in this fiscal year. The Church Street is part of the Safe Routes to School grant funding process. And so I haven't, and I'm not sure that Marty shared it in any of her reports, but Monmouth has moved into the next phase of the Safe Routes to School grant application process. They narrowed the number of projects down to 56 applicants. There's about $28 million, I think, in funds that are available. We've had a real strong ally in ODOT working with us, who is helping to help us secure a good chunk of Safe Routes to School money, we hope. So we're letting that process work through, and that will feed the timing of both improvements to the Church Street crossing as well as the Highway 51 or the Main Street and Heffley School crossing. So that's a little bit on the timing there. The difference in what you're seeing, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that what you're seeing is an icon for the overhead illumination in that particular sketch. The RFBs will be set back behind the curbs, but the street lights will hang out over the street. So I think that's what you're seeing in your particular drawing that is throwing you off there.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. And then one final question about how this will impact traffic flow in both of these intersections. Once that pedestrian haven is put in place, I'll use Madrona as an example because Church seems to be a bit contentious. Once that Madrona improvement is in place, on Madrona heading west, if you were to want to turn left onto Highway 99, will that still be allowed, or will there be signage discouraging that? How will that be handled?
So that left turn movement that you're speaking of to head south on Highway 99 will still be a permitted move. What you'll have to do is you'll have to move directly into the lane of travel, and you won't have access to the refuge, which I'm not even sure that that's a legal move anyhow, because I think that's intended for a refuge for a left turn off of 99. But the movement that the vehicle will need to do is move directly into the lane of travel and continue south.
We have a lawyer in the room, and I'm. We do have a lawyer in the room, and I'm not him, but I did do some reading up of Oregon transportation law and code, and it is a legal maneuver to turn into that, just not using it as a travel lane, but it is a legal maneuver to turn into it from a side street.
Excellent.
And that concludes my questions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Oberst.
So jumping back to a big picture on the north leg, as I said, there's also a proposal to put a pedestrian crossing island on the north leg of the Jackson and 99 intersection. And what that would do is make the only left turn refuge north of Main Street be Powell Street, which right now is a quiet street that not very many people turn up. And it would become the main access, because we would lose shielded isn't the right word, but a refuged left turn anywhere else but there. And that is an additional concern to me as all of this is constructed. And I just, again, I'm really excited about the vast majority of this report. Those three items, the Church Street Island and followed by tear it out and widen it, and the Powell Street, or Jackson Street rather, crossing. You combine all that, and I'm concerned about the whole north leg of this project. And here's the thing: I can imagine how all these moving pieces would fit together. I'm also concerned that once it goes on paper, we're going to get stuck with it, and it's going to be the document that determines where we go with all of this in the future. ODOT is a hard rock to move, and once it does get moving, it's a hard rock to stop and turn. And so I just and with all of that said, Russ is right. The reason that we engaged this entire process was to come up with some pre-designed projects,
right,
that we could seek grants for to build. Mm-hmm. And my concern is that on the north side, I don't think they listened to us as closely as they might have. And particularly, again, with that south side of Church Street sidewalk on the horizon, that would, to me, I just really worry about a north leg crossing when the south is available. So, it pains me to have doubts about this program, having been involved in it.
We
Okay.
appreciate that because we know how hard you worked, how many years you visited with ODOT about these projects. But I also heard, I think, Russ say, making changes to this could jeopardize their ODOT support, meaning we're back to square one.
I'm
So
fully
I'm
aware.
not sure. I mean, I'm sure you made your considered opinions known during the process because you were out there walking with them, right?
Right.
Did they talk about things like north versus south of Church
Yeah, and
Street?
the biggest objection to the southbound crossing was the little crescent of green paint and the current bike crossing, and that they were enamored of that project. That was the single biggest objection that was made to a south leg crossing.
Yeah.
That and no sidewalk on Church Street, but again, that's kind of been addressed.
And Russ mentioned a couple other things they saw as important.
Right. Yeah.
About that decision. So I would be real nervous about us tinkering.
Trust me, I am. I really am nervous about tinkering with it because I know how this goes.
But Russ?
I was going to maybe add some comments to Councillor Oberst's concerns with the north end of town, and then this study more globally. I think even within the report, the engine or the firm acknowledges that on most of these projects, further study will need to be done. And when I look at the Jackson Street, Center Island, even myself, I have enough significant concern about that. And these were expressed in the process. It's not like these are just coming out now. These were, it's kind of, you take everybody's ideas and you bring them together and you try to put together something that is a study that says to the city, give consideration to these types of improvements as you look to make the use of Highway 99 better for bicyclists and pedestrians. And so the Jackson Street, putting an island there, has significant impact on the local businesses right there on the corner. It really blocks ability for folks to get into, or pushes everybody to some other location that isn't good either. So just as I have my own concerns about that. So that type of a project would be further vetted before we move forward with that. And so, this is a good guide for us to say, these are possibilities. We should give consideration to these. But I believe even in the resolution, that endorsed it as a guide to making improvement. So there's some terms that doesn't lock the city into what you're seeing, but certainly provides a good jump start for us to move forward in making planning decisions, bring this into the transportation system plan update process, and we've got some good legs moving forward that way.
Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, it's kind of funny. No, we don't want cars slowing down on this. It's a state highway. Oh yeah, we'll just put something in the middle of every intersection and you guys work it out.
Yeah, right.
Councilor Lopez.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And it seems that ODOT has maybe changed their tune a little bit on this, which is refreshing. With the clarity of how the Church Street intersection would evolve over time under this plan, that the pedestrian havens would be placed and removed as that space is widened to allow for a turn lane. At that point, would the Jackson Street haven be placed in replacement of the Church Street haven, or at that time, how would people cross Church Street?
They could. So at that time, and we didn't dive into the design of that, but I'll tell you that what I believe would happen is either you would continue to have RFBs in that location without the island. Now that isn't a standard ODOT installation, and that's part of this process of ODOT has some standards for when things are implemented. But I think this would be one where either they would stay at that location, or at that time that crossing would move to the south leg of the intersection.
Okay. Well, with that color, so I'm still concerned a little bit about Councilor Oberst's point of the three pedestrian havens, Church, Jackson, and Madrona, and blocking that access to the street. To the mayor's point, I think this is a good outline though, and I'll yield the floor. I think I'm comfortable enough.
Councilor McKeel, then Councilor Oberst.
So I was just thinking, if you have that island on Church Street, it would eliminate that kind of turn lane that's causing trouble now. So it would back up traffic, but then that's all that's going to do. And we won't have people trying to get into a half of a turn lane. So could actually take care of that problem. I do have a question about projects 12 and 14. They're like really similar, unless I read it several times and it just didn't strike me. It looked like the big difference between 12 and 14 is that 14 says give people 3 to 7 seconds, but they both seemed like a delay on the walk. And I'm wondering what specificity, if somebody else can say the word correctly, what I'm missing there. Thank you.
I'm trying to find them myself, just so that so projects 12
and 14. And 12 is on page 18 of the report, and 14 is the next page.
So one project extends the time that a pedestrian can get across the street. So in effect, it also extends the amount of time that vehicles can also run through the intersection east to west. And so, or to say it another way, it stops traffic on Highway 99 for a couple seconds longer. And then the other one, what it does is it stops all traffic for about 3 seconds and allows pedestrians to get from the curb into, moving into the street before the lights turn green to allow vehicles to move. So they're little nuances of how you can improve it. One, actually, both of them will affect Highway 99 vehicle traffic and queuing. And one of them, the one that allows the pedestrian a 3-second lead time, will also extend the queuing on Main Street. So it would make less time for cars to make those turns, and in effect, during peak times of the day, would back up Main Street a little bit further.
Okay, thank you. The other one I had was Project 9 on page 17. I was wondering why we needed to spend $50,000 on an illumination study when, like, maybe I just don't know how expensive streetlights are, but it seems like just use the money to put up the streetlights. Because I think there's already a streetlight on Madrona and 99.
Yeah, there is. There are streetlights there. So I think the way well, we're going to be moving the crosswalk at Madrona. So the existing lighting, it won't necessarily work for the crossing. And then the ODOT, this was kind of ODOT's recommendation to say, we design the highway lighting as just general illumination to kind of light the area up. And it's not specific for that spot illumination over a crossing. And where we're going to be having pedestrians on the corners, we want them to be seen. And then once they're moving into the street, we want the lighting to be right so that they're illuminated, I'll just say, to the maximum amount. And so it's asking a consultant, and 50,000 may be a bit robust for a number. It's asking a lighting specialist to look at the area, identify the best lights for the implementation, and then provide the recommendation.
Okay. Oh, and I just want to make a comment that I am so excited about this, at least the crossings, as somebody who was standing at Madrona and 99 on the way to the council meeting and had 3 people blow by as I was on the crosswalk. Well, my foot wasn't in it, fortunately, or I would not be here at the meeting to talk about it. So this is great. Thank you so much, Mr. Cooper. I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Councilor Oberst?
So just so council will be aware, the way left turns are made at Church Street now by a lot of folks, my spouse included, is she squeezes past the striped triangle and then makes a sharp little wiggle to the left to wait. So she gets out of the travel lane, she's smack dab in the middle of the intersection, and then she makes her left turn. I have a feeling that will continue if islands go in. People will continue to make that maneuver that way. There's no queuing that way. One vehicle can do that. Everybody else is going to have to wait in the travel lane if other people want to make that left turn. So to give ODOT credit where it's due, when we had our walk, I thought we were meeting at the south end. So I left home and walked way down to the south end, and I crossed Main Street on 99 with the crossing signal and with my bum hoof. And I said, man, that's a little tight. And it was about 6 seconds more than I needed. And I thought if somebody was even slower than me, that would not be enough time. And I mentioned that to them, and I was actually quite surprised that they came up with not one, but 2 solutions to that issue. And my understanding, Russ, and you can correct me on this, but right now we have cameras that look at the crosswalks. And if they see somebody in the crosswalk, if the computer sees somebody in the crosswalk, it holds the lights to help them get across. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. The pedestrian also needs to stand in a particular position that they've been educated to stand with their hand on the the push button, and then the system recognizes that as a signal to extend it for folks that are sight impaired.
Mm. Wow.
Cool. Counselor Salinas Oliveros?
Yes, I just want to make a quick comment before we move on. And I just want to applaud you for this. This is really impressive work. I really appreciate the data, the survey, everything that you use to come up with this report. And you know, it's not perfect. It's not going to please everybody, but it really does meet some of the immediate needs that we are looking at right now. So really thank you for this body of work.
I thank the
Thank you.
consultants for really graphic visualization. It's easy to show folks, and we can help people understand
Yeah.
some of this. It's actually pretty cool. Counselor Carey?
In the interest of, not allowing great to be the enemy of good, I'm going to move approval of Resolution 1953, a resolution adopting the Highway 99W Bicycle and Pedestrian Connection Study.
Second. Oh, wait a minute. I was the one who got blown away on a drone and I didn't know. No, sorry. Go ahead. Councilor Salinas Oliveros, that's okay.
Thank you, Counselor Carey, for the motion, and Counselor Salinas Oliveros for the second, and Counselor McKeel for the rousing endorsement.
Yes, for the graphic explanation of why a yes vote
Yes.
is necessary.
And any final questions or comments? This is a resolution, so we'll have Phyllis call the roll, please.
Counselor Oberst,
Aye. Is that a vote, oi?
Counselor
I'm going to
McKeel.
vote yes with
Okay,
huge reservations, but I'll vote yes.
Counselor McKeel,
Yes.
Counselor Lopez,
Yes.
Counselor Carey,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Counselor Salinas Oliveros.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. And Counselor Oberst, we will count on you to just keep following this and keep these people on their toes. Thank you very much. Thanks, Russ.
Yeah,
Appreciate
good
it.
job. That's
Yes,
great
thank
work,
you.
Russ.
We now move to our work session. We have one item tonight, and it is a revisit of a recent issue, item, whatever, report, and some tweaks I'm excited to hear and see. So Suzanne Duffner, Community and Economic Development Director.
Hi, good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Thanks for the opportunity to come back to you tonight for a brief update on the Downtown Improvement Plan and where we're at and the progress that we've made since the July 5th work session. So I'm joined tonight by Aniko with our consultant with the University of Oregon's Institute for Policy Research and Engagement. Since we last visited with you, there's been an outreach survey that was conducted to get some more input on priorities of the goals and recommendations. So we're excited to share those results with you. Also joined by our downtown plan intern extraordinaire from Western Oregon University, Ella Tonito. She's been a really integral part to the outreach and promotional efforts in our website of getting the word out. So I'm going to invite both Ella and Aniko to come up and share with you where we're at. Thanks.
Phyllis, can you let me share my screen? I don't have that option right now. Oh, great. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna pull this up. Okay, good.
Solid.
Now that my attention's off the computer, I can look at all of you again. So thanks for having us back. Amira and Ellie, who are the two other student, Mira's a student, Ellie's recently graduated, who are working with me on this project, weren't able to make it tonight, but they've been working hard on this, and Ella's been our local representative working very hard on this. So what we were hoping to do tonight is kind of give you an update of where we got to with that prioritization discussion through the community survey, and then get your feedback on those priorities as well, and talk a little bit about what implementation for the downtown plan might look like. So just wanted to give you a little reminder of where this plan is coming from. So we started way back in the fall. We did some site visits. We've had an advisory group that we're working with. And we're sort of in the stage right now where we're drafting the final recommendations and moving into thinking about what's the implementation strategy. So that's the point we're at right now. Since last time, when we talked about the thematic areas and the different goals under those, we've done some updating and some rearranging. So the thematic areas have stayed the same, but their order has changed, partially based on the priorities that you'll see here in a minute. But just as a reminder, the 5 main areas are character and aesthetics, quality of life, events and activities, mobility, business development, and tourism and visitor experience. So we really wanted to think about within those 5 areas, and of those 5 areas overall, where do we focus efforts? What's important to start with? What's important to allocate resources towards? And so part of how we're figuring that out is by asking the community. So we put together a recommendation prioritization survey that Ella helped us push out in various ways. The survey had 18 questions. We asked overall of those 5 areas, what is most important to you? And then we asked people could select of those 5 which they wanted to give more detailed feedback on. And then we showed them some of the actual recommendations in each of those 5 areas. So we posted about this survey on the website. Thanks, Ella. And then we had a presence at Music in the Park to let people know that this was happening and to get more responses. Do you want to add anything about how we distributed it?
We tried to get as many people as possible. They were very distracted by the lovely music that was going on, though. I did go around just bothering people with the survey, handing out pieces of paper. We tried to just inform as many people going in and out of the event about the survey. I reached out to local event that was being hosted by Western that focused on like the younger generation, so middle to high school. So I reached out, and that was spread out to that organization. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, mostly Music in the Park and social media. I felt like it was a good turnout. So that was pretty fun.
And Suzanne helped us get it out through other various listservs too. So actually, we were particularly trying to reach people who owned or worked in businesses downtown with this one, since that's kind of the population that's going to be most directly impacted by this plan. And so I want to just share a little bit about who ended up actually taking the survey. So overall, we had ended up with 210 full responses, and then another 67 partial responses. It was only open for 2 weeks this time. The other one was open for longer, but we, thanks to Ella's efforts, I think we were able to get pretty good response for this.
Good.
And then looking at this question of, do you own or work at a business in downtown, almost a little over a quarter of people did. So I feel like we did a good job of hitting the mark of reaching that population through this. Just real quick, sort of comparing who took the survey to the actual demographics of Monmouth. We were a little overrepresented on the older populations. I think this might have to do with summer. Yes, for sure. More females than males. That's very typical during surveys. Slightly lower than we wanted on the Hispanic Latinx population, although somebody did take the survey in Spanish, which was awesome. And again, on the income, probably again, because we were not getting that student population as much, a little bit overrepresented on the higher income side. So that's a little bit about who took the survey. And before I go on to share some of the findings from that, I wanted to just sort of center us on what we were hoping to focus the conversation with you around today. So we're really looking to get from you, are there further clarifications that we need to make to any of the goals and recommendations? How do you feel about the priorities that I'll show you in a minute that came up from the survey? And do you have any additional priorities that you think we should be considering when we put the implementation plan together? And then finally, because we want this stuff to happen, that takes resources and it takes people. And so thinking about what organizations might be good leads for some of these things, what other resources might we have access to that you'd like to point out, all of those kinds of things will be really helpful in our discussion today. So that's just to frame it up, but now I'm going to move on and share what we learned from the survey and then talk a little bit about how we're thinking about implementation, then we can talk a little bit. So on that first question where we asked people of those 5 themes, if you could only pick one for us to focus on, what would that be? Sort of forcing people to make a decision here. Quality of life, events and activities was the top one for people, or the most people said that was their number one, and that was pretty closely followed by character and aesthetics and the business development. The mobility and tourism were sort of less, had fewer people saying those are my top one. So then we had people decide which of the 5 themes they wanted to give more detailed feedback on. So I'm going to go through them and remind you of the goals that we had set for those, and then share what were the top 2 or 3 of the recommendations within those that people said, this is what's really important to us. So for character and aesthetics, the 2 main goals here were around infill development and then around enhancing the historic character and aesthetics of downtown overall. And what came out of the survey is people really liking things under that infill development goal. So really wanting to encourage the development of underutilized or vacant spaces, and then promoting public art and other aesthetic improvements to downtown. Those had the most people saying that was the most important one to them. And then slightly less, but still up there, was around the historic character, and people were interested in this idea of creating a style guide for new buildings, so that really thinking about new development that happens in downtown, how can that be keeping in character with what you already have? For the quality of life theme, we had more goals under here. We had one around making good spaces for people to enjoy downtown, connections with the university, promoting more events, and then ensuring that downtown offers a diverse housing mix. Way at the top here were people liked the ones under promoting more events. So really the top one was around farmers market, exploring that, making that happen. And then secondly, just having more events and festivals happening in downtown. So those were the top 2 that came out under this one. For the mobility goal, again, we had a bunch of different things that we're focusing on here. Very relevant to your conversation just before this. So first was reworking circulation to promote diverse modes of transportation. Second is around sidewalk and crosswalk improvements to improve that pedestrian experience. Third one is to support and expand public transit. And the last one is around parking. What came up for people as priorities here were, number 1, around sidewalks, really wanting to make sure sidewalks and crosswalks are improved for accessibility and safety. And then after that, people's top priority was promoting non-car transportation options so that people can access downtown in other ways besides cars. So those were the top two for mobility. Moving on to business development, our two main goals here are around supporting existing businesses and then promoting a diverse mix of businesses that enhance that appeal of downtown for people. And what people said here is that they really are interested in seeing grant funding to support physical improvements of buildings or of businesses that are already downtown. And then after that, better marketing the businesses that are already here to both visitors and the people who live here. So then finally, we had our tourism and visitor experience theme area, and the goals under this were to create a more cohesive brand, sort of visuals for marketing downtown. Secondly, to enhance visitor experience and navigation with signage, so really focusing on signs. And then finally, increasing Monmouth's capacity to actually host visitors. So what came up here as the top priorities were really promoting downtown through social media, and this lots of interest in like a calendar of like, where is one place we can go to see everything. I know this is a complicated discussion. There are multiple calendars. We're aware, but
As
it's
we just dissolved the committee that was going to do it.
So, and then after that, people did like the idea of signage that really highlights key places. So those were the priorities that came out of the survey. And then I just want to close here by sharing, you know, like, what do we do with all of this at this point? So thinking about prioritization, the kinds of things that we've talked with Suzanne and our advisory group about considering as we think about what is important to put in this plan and what is important to say, this needs to happen now, or this could wait till later. We want to think about the community's desires. So we got a little bit of that through the survey and hoping to talk with you all more as representatives of the community. But we also need to consider cost and the funding availability for these things. So some of these are just going to be bigger and they can't happen right away because it's going to take a long time to assemble the resources. Sequencing is also important. There may be some things where it's like, well, this really has to happen first. You can't jump to this without doing this. And then also just considering really pressing needs that may come up, you know, in the future. So things that we know about now that maybe didn't quite come out through the community engagement. So these four things are kind of what we're considering as part of how we put the implementation plan together. And then when we start to put those two things, the prioritization and then like, how do we get this done together, what we're anticipating ending up with is sort of each recommendation having a time frame associated with it. So short term, midterm, long term, or it's an ongoing thing that just needs to keep happening. So what might that look like in practice in the plan? Just thrown together two examples here. These are not final at all, but the idea would be you'd say, okay, here's the recommendation. And then we'd say, well, what resources are available to help put us together? So if we were thinking about historic preservation, we've got a great historic preservation office at the state that can offer support, and we have a statewide nonprofit that's around historic preservation too. So those would be great resources to leverage. But then we also want to think about who's going to take the lead on this, on making this thing happen, and who might important partners be in that. So for this example, we might say, well, the Main Street Preservation Committee would be a great place for this to live, but they'll need support from city staff. And if this is about a specific building, the property owners would have to be involved as well, of course. So this is kind of what we're working towards with what the implementation plan will look like. And so I want to bring it back again for opening it up for questions and discussion of really asking you, when you looked in your packet through that list of recommendations and the goals, are there any further clarifications that you think you might want to make to this? Because we're getting ready to kind of say these are the final set of things. So we want to just make sure we're good there. And then also any comments you have about those priorities that came up through the survey and things that you might say in addition to those, or to give those a resounding, yes, these are my priority too. That's super helpful commentary. And then if you have any ideas to throw out about how do these things happen, great, we'll take them. So I'll stop talking now and turn it over to all of you.
Thank you so much. That's great. Fun to see it morph even within a 5-week period.
Yes, constantly changing.
Great work here. Very exciting. And so I will, in fact, turn it over to folks that things you really liked, things you weren't sure of that you needed to get some questions answered about on the recommendations we got. Pages that look like this. Councilor McKeel.
I'll jump in. I just wanted to, actually, I've just figured out there's on page 75, the M1.2.
That's the mobility one.
Yes, I think it's traffic calming. I was going to ask you,
Not
what is
hamming, clamming.
Yeah. And actually, is just before the meeting, I went, I could Google it, and it's like, okay, now I know what it is.
No, I don't know what
I
traffic
saw that. It
clamming
didn't
is.
register, Carol. Good reason.
What is that? It's like, I really felt really silly. Like, it's a whole line. So then looking at the marketing M3.1, and maybe this is kind of out there and not necessarily in this project, but I wonder when we do the marketing, I don't even know how it would be part of your report, which is really great. But with the heat that we're having this week, the heat that we're having next week, and really the focus that we're really going to be having to do locally on climate change and how to decrease the car driving, walking and riding your bike. I wonder if we could use a marketing plan that included that, like encouraging people to ride their bike. Like, I don't know, I was thinking, think before you drive. Can you save our planet? Can you walk? Can you take your bike? Can you take the trolley? So when there isn't a marketing, is it possible to be more holistic of like,
Oh, yeah.
be conscious of climate change? I don't know. I'm not a marketing person.
Yes.
Well, and if I could add to that, maybe during certain seasons like the heat and where you could cool off. So, if you're taking your bike, cool off at the park. There's, the splashing pad, or go get some ice cream at our ice cream parlor, or somewhere where it's also promoting some of our businesses and what we have to offer. Maybe go and look at some of our nice shaded areas. We have beautiful green spaces, and that could be part of it as well. And when I was looking through this and looking at your first two, the character aesthetics and the quality of life and events, and you have some great partnerships. I think the partnerships is going to be really key in those relationships. I would recommend even the Central School District. There's a small group of volunteers who works with the teachers to do cultural events, and I think it comes with the invitation where people think it's okay to be invited and be able to volunteer. But also, what can you do? So it's those specifics. Like, we want volunteers, we want these partnerships, but if we need specifics, this is how you can help. This is what we can do. This is what we're doing here. We have all the materials for you, like making it so easy that people want to be involved. So I'll give you an example with some of the history months. So Black History Month, the group of volunteers. We worked with the elementary school teachers and provided them with everything. Here are some Black authors that you can read to your students and then interpret the art, and then we'll put up the art downtown. And I think we were very surprised at the response, the number of yeses. Like, this is a great project. And it was a shared experience in the classroom. We're doing the same thing for Hispanic Heritage Month. And we already have, I don't know how many classrooms from all the elementary schools who have said, yes, this is a great project. And the kids love seeing their art downtown. But that's, but we also gave them a list of authors and a bibliography, and this is who they are. Here's the book. Here's where you can find it. Do you need help with the materials? So I think the more that can be done up front with these partnerships, the more yeses you're going to get, because I think people generally want to be a part of the community. I just think sometimes they just don't know how or exactly what they're going to do. And so providing those opportunities are going to be really important. So thinking about like the different groups, so the elementary schools, the middle schools, the high school, the university, what can the business association do? What can maybe some of the nonprofits that are in town, and the senior center, the senior and community center. We just heard that they want to be more part of the community even more. They want to be integrated even more. They're a great partner, and how awesome to bring them into this mix. So I think there's a lot of opportunities. But I think there's going to be a need to be creative, to really line things up, to kind of pace yourself about what to do every year, but presenting those opportunities and then being specific about it, and then having that invitation. Because I think with the survey and the people that probably you talked to that actually completed the survey, and you'll see that there's a desire to want to volunteer and to do, be part of the community. So those would just be some of my suggestions to kind of look at a more broader and how many nonprofit schools, organizations, commissions to bring into the mix.
Yeah, it'll be a whole community effort for sure to make this happen. And I just wanted to share too, when we were talking earlier about things that Ella can do for the rest of her internship, we've really been focusing on building partnerships with the school, with the university, since Ella's got good connections there. Yeah.
One of my tasks for my internship was building a Western Oregon University department directory, because I've worked in multiple departments at my time at Western. I've been very privileged to do so. And so I know a little bit more about the ins and outs of what department does what. For example, like the Multicultural Student Service Program, they do a lot of cultural events for not just the university, but for the whole community. But I think there's a lack of communication about these events when they're being hosted. So the directory will really help know who to contact in both a staff and student level, because a great benefit of Western and the small communities that students are very involved. And so hopefully the directory will give a guideline of who to talk to, what kind of events these departments have hosted, and where the city and different businesses can help create a better bond. So I've been working on that, and I'm very excited to see how it will be used. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Obers?
So don't know if you all have the history of farmers market in Monmouth. We had one 10, 12 years ago that was tied in with folks over in Dallas. They took SNAP, which was great. They ran during working hours, which wasn't. And so it did not succeed because the customer base was all out of town at work during the open hours. So and I've always thought a great opportunity would be to get a farmers and crafts market going on Wednesday night with music in the park, and probably up attendance for both. So, I just want to put that out there as I don't know if this ties in with your, this level of planning, if you're at 30,000 and I'm at 2, but I just, Independence has 2 farmers markets, and they're both on Saturday when people can actually go. And that's when most farmers markets are. So I think it'd be, advantageous to have one on Wednesday, but have it after working hours and have it in conjunction with another event. So just
That is
love to
really
see it.
helpful detail, because when we're writing out the recommendations, we're writing in ideas for implementation. And
Okay.
those kinds of
Okay.
things are what we want to include to give you the best.
And then the only other one that I had was when you called out trying to discourage long-term parking on Main Street, disincentivize. One of the great disincentives is a parking ticket, and we have had difficulty finding hours in the police department to address that. So any creative solutions to how to write parking tickets without sworn officers being called off of their routine patrols to write parking tickets, if you guys have any ideas, because I have long argued that is a problem downtown. Is in general, yeah, you can find a parking space, but there are times and places where not so much, and the closer you get to the U, the worse it gets.
Kind of along with the parking, I was wondering, M4.3, why we're phasing out parking lots and I noticed I actually caused me to go look at Google Earth, and it looks like it's Domino's parking and some bank parking. Is there a strategy for having not that parking?
So I think the reason that one got singled out is related to the vacant, underutilized spaces downtown, and really thinking about how can we better activate the street, so it's not just like you're walking and you're like, oh, there's nothing interesting here, it's just parking lots. So that's, I think, why that one in particular came up.
Okay.
I think as part of the broader transportation system plan update, that will be kind of where you look more in depth at various parking strategies. But that's the context for why that particular location was singled out.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just thought. And I guess if we're having people, walk and take their bikes, then we won't need so many places for cars.
That's the theory.
And I just wanted to say, Ella, that you made quite a mark at the concert in the park, because the next week I was there and all these kids came up and they had these long faces. Where are the music popsicles? That's what they were talking about. So it actually made me think maybe the city council needs to take a box of popsicles when we go
I think
there,
that's a great
because
idea.
they'll
We can do that.
really love city council then. And
Mhm.
I don't know, Mr. Shetterly, can council give away?
Is that
popsicles?
considered?
Yes, you cannot receive, but you can give.
Okay, all right. So that one started a whole
Except during
brainstorm.
campaign season.
Unless it's an exchange.
That's right. That's right.
Voters.
Okay,
Except
we
during
won't
campaign.
talk about voting at the same time to the 8-year-old that gets the popsicle.
And I have a expensive idea. So talking about taking out some of those parking spaces, what about finding putting in some charging stations? And even if it's like 3 or 4, and then it could be, because we are strategically placed between Portland, Eugene, and this could be a stop for electric vehicles. And then it's like, plug in your car and have dinner, or grab a drink. And it's a perfect spot to stop and charge your car, explore a small town, maybe a town you've never been in before because you're traveling, and it's encouraging a different type of transportation.
Yep.
And
That's a great
so
idea.
what
Yeah.
about trying something like that? And then, because then we might even come up on those mobile apps, like you're trying to find a charging station and then Monmouth comes up.
Besides the one at Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who knows, we might be very popular. That's one of the complaints that I hear from people who own electric vehicles, is that there's not enough charging stations. The infrastructure is not there. So if we're part of that solution, that could be a boost to our tourism and to our businesses.
Love it.
I have one more thing, and again, I'm not sure that how this fits in, but in the business development section, I'm wondering if because you have the support the creation of targeted businesses needed to create a more vibrant and thriving downtown. And looking at that, I wonder if we want to include recruiting LGBTQ and ethnic minority businesses, because we have some nice restaurants, but are there retail businesses that we can also have, in town, in those parking lots that will soon be buildings for businesses other than the charging stations? But
I can add to that a little bit. Another thing that I've been hearing about, so if you have curly hair, and mine is dry and coarse, it's hard to find somebody who knows how to cut specific types of hair. And that is very cultural and it's very meaningful. And so that would be a wonderful business to have somebody who specializes in cutting different types of hair, and they would get lots of business. Our family struggles with that because we all have curly hair. And so I don't know how viable that is, but that's another, I guess, feedback that I get is about, because it's so important culturally. And so that might be something to look into.
and I
Instead
heard
of having
people,
to drive, to Eugene or Portland or Salem, I'd rather find somebody local that could do that.
And just to reiterate on that point, my son's good friend Silas, who is originally from Africa, had a haircut in Africa that was not good. And he came here, and Ray the barber had somebody who was cutting a couple of days a week who absolutely knew how to cut that. I mean, he has the tightest curls in the world. There are none tighter than his style of hair, and beautiful haircut. And some of the African-American athletes on campus were aware of her last spring and using her. And I think she's gone now, but you get that kind of word out that you've got somebody who knows how to do that, and it does have an impact. So I think, that's not a bad thing. While I have the floor briefly, a lodging facility, the university is a member of an athletic conference that has standards about the characteristics of a facility to house teams, certain size, certain characteristics. Might want to be familiar with that, or make sure that the city, as it works on that aspect, is familiar with that. And that's all.
Yes, Sir Jerry.
This is good work. You guys have really done a nice job of bringing a lot of things together. I would just comment on a couple of things, and in the mobility area right now, and I think Councilor McKeel mentioned the disincentive for long-term parking downtown and phasing out parking lots. We're kind of going into a deal where, with our code review coming up, we're going into a deal where we are requiring, or we're encouraging people to actually park on the street, on public streets. And while not all of that is downtown, certainly some of it is. So we may be a bit in conflict with that. I understand where you're going and applaud it, but understand that may be in slight conflict with another part of things that we are looking at. And it's not a criticism, it's just an observation. Sticking with the mobility piece, I really like your M1.3, encourage bicycle travel along Clay and Jackson Street to improve safety and reduce bike conflicts on Main Street. That's something I've favored for a long time. Currently, our bike route is on Main Street. We have the Sharrows on Main Street. We've been talking ad nauseum tonight about Jackson Street, but if we begin to get into the bicycle thing, that is a really a viable deal and puts a different spin on that. If we look how to best connect with Independence, and you want to get off Highway 51. So good idea, currently in conflict with our transportation plan. But that doesn't mean that can't be changed. And then a number of references, and this is, and it just brought it to mind for me. A number of questions in the characteristics and the aesthetics. We talk about historical development. We talk about matching the design of our downtown. And when we came through the design review for the new building across the street, Councilor Oberst was waist deep in that discussion. We had a difficult time defining what was historical downtown.
Right.
Now, we typically default towards, the building that crushes in, and we default towards sort of the rebuilt up here and the old bank building. But there's a lot of historical buildings or perhaps old buildings
Anything over
that
50
we're not
years old.
interested in maintaining and continuing that style. So it might be a charge for the historical committee to do a little definition work on what it is that we are interested in, in preserving. And we talked about infill. There isn't a lot of space to infill at the moment on Main Street. There's not, aside from parking lots. And and that sort of discussion, I mean, that's, there's a conundrum there.
Yeah.
And if we were to go sort of down Clay and down Jackson, there's more opportunities for that. Now, part of the funding source, I want to remind the council, and you all know this, but we've got urban renewal, and there's a possibility of extending that time frame, and we've got some money available. We may want to, if legal, change our focus and purchase some properties, perhaps, that could be developed along the lines that the folks are suggesting, somewhere off our main street, perhaps, or on our main street. We might be able to do some reshaping there. All that said, good work, some things that you might not have initially got, but really a good place for us to start and to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to ask, kind of going back to their actual questions, are there any of these that you just don't think are good? Are any of these priorities that we should just tell them, we probably will not go down that path, so take it off now?
Nope. I thought it was a really nicely done piece.
Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Chris?
Two thumbs up.
Thank you. Yeah. There's nothing I see that really sticks out as something that needs to be pulled. I was camped out next to you there at the table. Don't worry, Lane. I didn't break any laws with the Otter Pops. But to Councilor Carey's point, one thing that I did hear a lot of overflow discussions about was Jackson and how we can incorporate that into future plans of downtown, and really highlighting that as an opportunity that the public sees as an area of focus. And I think that in the past we've spoken a little bit about some landscaping issues there, some problem properties, or some areas of revitalization opportunity. And I see a little bit of that in here, but I think looking at that as as a real area of focus could be, could make for some easy wins.
Okay, anybody have any brilliant resources to throw at them? Saying you do this is not very helpful.
We do have a group that's working on University City connections
Yes.
that you're probably aware of.
Yes, we do know about that.
Just having them on the list.
Any others, particularly ones with checkbooks?
Well, I mean, urban renewal.
Urban
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Urban
That's the
renewal.
big one.
yeah. And that would be sort of by definition, we could go back into our original, urban renewal plan for that and pull out a lot of this stuff.
I just wanted to observe that there's a real good dovetail between this and the Main Street program as far as,
Yeah.
the Main Street program says physical infrastructure first, downtown characteristics and aesthetics.
Yep.
So, and we did some good work with curb roll outs and replacing the worst of the downtown sidewalk, Main Street sidewalks, but I think there's still a lot we can do downtown on this, on that physical environment, aesthetics stuff. So, yeah.
Was the Main Street program listed in your presentation? I think it was listed as one of the possible funding sources.
Yeah, and one of the, I think in,
The part.
I gave that as an example of
Yeah.
a committee that might want to take the lead on something, but we've been talking with Suzanne about how important Main Street will be in implementation of this because it's got a great structure. And actually, part of what we were thinking is we can use the launch of this downtown plan to maybe help recruit some more Main Street volunteers to, help staff those committees and say, we got all these cool ideas, but we need people to help make them happen. So
If you're looking for human capital as opposed to fiscal capital, the Monmouth Business Association has really been impressively active and has been a wonderful little group there. So a lot of energy in that organization right now.
Oh, and then just one last, would we have your contact in here just in case? I'm brainstorming what Mayor Coons was saying about funding sources, and if we have any that we can maybe send to you. Yeah. So it's your information, or Suzanne?
Suzanne.
Yeah. Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
I just want to share real quick about next steps for this. So we're going to be working on putting the implementation plan together. There's going to be a virtual open house on Wednesday, September 14th. This would be a great time for you all to poke your heads back in again if you're available. I know Mayor Kuntz joined for one of our virtual open houses last time, but we on these really want to focus on sharing back out, like we're getting really close to being finished with this. Anything else you want to tell us? We'll be planning to post the full plan for public comment by September 23rd, and then the adoption meeting we'll do on the 18th of October. So we're still a little ways out, but that time's going to go really fast. So,
Always does.
yes. Well, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good work. Good work.
Good work. And John, anything over 50 years old is historic, which means almost everything on Main Street except two of our newest, most historic looking buildings.
Yeah.
Right behind Unical and up here on the
That's
corner,
right.
right? So,
The most historic looking.
I'm trying to think, I don't know exactly when Marketplace and US Bank and some of those other buildings were built, but they've got to be closing in on 50 years old. So that's a very good point.
All right. I am going to suggest we've got our reports, and then we also have urban renewal this evening, but can we take a break? Okay, if we can return, since we don't have folks online with us, I don't think we can return at 8:30. Gotta get a little break. We'll be back and we'll try and get through this. All right, thank you very much for that break. And in order to get through our reports, I will, I'll bring the scoop about the exciting events of Saturday, August 6th, the day that we began the long-awaited process of tearing down our city hall.
Yeah, man.
Thank you all for being there. It was pretty. I think our colleague Councillor Belt said it best when she said that was not anticlimactic. Just being able to see that happen and to know that the work is progressing was a pretty exciting day. The kids who got to be placed up on the excavator
That was cool.
had a lot of fun, and the rest of us had some fun as well. Say goodbye to the old building. So that was a great day. I also, and a couple of you here were with us yesterday. We got to visit the Polk County Emergency Operations Center. And this is buildings at the county, at their public works sort of area, where they are preparing to lead us all through any kind of emergency. Natural, man-made, civil. Dean Bender, our county emergency manager, gave us some great information about the place, and it was interesting to note that Polk County Center is seen as kind of a model for other counties that are hoping to build a central place that is highly equipped to be able to withstand these sorts of typical disasters so that they can operate out of there to get materials, supplies, and information to all of us in the county. So that was great. My other sort of big mayor time the last few days, last Thursday through Saturday was the Oregon Mayors Association Conference in lovely Newport, and had some really great sessions there that I'll be bringing back information in various ways. One of them was a huge section on social media and how to use that and how not to use it. And so as we're continuing to look at improving our communications, hopefully we can add some things there. We did review the legislative priorities. We had that discussion and sort of voted on a few things. And so we got an update on how those things are coming from around the state. And really, apparently, by and large, just number one issue, homelessness, housing assistance, housing instability. There was a separate section on that, and that was included not only mayors who are working through policies and programs from large and small cities, but also the Oregon Community Housing and Community Services Director was there, talking about sort of the legislative ask that's coming up and the kinds of things that cities really need to support homelessness. So some great work there. And then had a really interesting session on barriers to service. What are the barriers we see in getting people involved in public service? Our boards, our commissions, even for council, and again, got some really great tips from folks who were from towns large and small, and really good discussion about that. Very in-depth discussion about Wilsonville's Civics Academy, a 7-week program that just takes people around to each department, helps really our residents learn what the city does and does not do. So good ideas there. We've talked before about some of that. And finally, my really interesting session that ties in with the Emergency Operations Center. The Brigadier General of the Oregon Air National Guard was there, and she gave a fascinating presentation on our National Guard structure in Oregon. We have our Army National Guard, our Air National Guard, and what those folks do. And of course, guards, they're volunteers, right? They are our citizen soldier and citizen airman force, but the absolutely incredible range of services they actually offer, including, for example, cyber assessment and defense for public agencies. Not something that's often mentioned, but they have been out doing a lot of work in the communities, and really, really important. I will have a slide show that I'll be able to share with everybody, so everybody can kind of get that information. But it was really fascinating to learn. She talked a lot about the support they gave in vaccination centers and in hospitals, and how moving that was for her to be in those spaces and see doctors and nurses during the pandemic, and having National Guard people doing what they do best, which is feel useful in their communities. So it was a great opportunity, not only to network with my fellow mayors, but really learn about some things we can do to enhance our operations and develop ourselves as well. So that's my report.
I think you forgot something, Madam Mayor.
I was going to go there. I was going to go there.
Point of personal privilege, if I could. Madam Mayor, I hope you wouldn't finish your OMA report without mentioning that you were honored and recognized with the Mayor's Leadership Award at the OMA conference. And so congratulations to you, and it's a peer-nominated award for exceptional leadership in your community. And we're glad to say that we're the beneficiary of those leadership qualities that you bring to Monmouth.
Thank you. Yes, it was lovely. It was lovely. Thank you. Really an honor. We're a medium-sized city, so 7,500 to 25,000, and has some amazing mentors that I've had there at OMA, and to feel that they thought I was deserving of recognition was very humbling. So thank you.
All deserved.
Thank you all. All right. Reports from boards and commissions. Councillor Opers.
Quick report from Parks. We met on Wednesday, the 10th at Public Works. And the two things we heard about old business, one was the Monmouth Recreation grants. All have been completed and reported, with the exception of August 21st, paint in the park, Gentle Woods Park. And I think if you were to call Shannon at Public Works, she would get you information on how to register for that if you would like to go paint in the park, because I believe there are still openings for that on the 21st. We have the Independence and Monmouth Recreation grants, and we didn't get a full update there, except to say that the Y being the pool unexpectedly closed. They wondered if they could redirect their grant fund to other activities besides the swimming pool, because it's not open. And I think they had approval to do that. We heard about this skate park and Monmouth Rec Park. The skate park, the money, if it is not in now, should be soon, and we will move to finding the contractor who knows how to build a skate park and trying to get that underway this fall. And we have moved, hopefully in September, we will hear that the State Parks Board has approved the screening committee's recommendation of our grant for Monmouth Recreational Park, so we can move forward with that. Now, whether we can get to that next year or the year after is maybe a little bit of a question, because there's so many things on the table already. We've had a problem with some vandalism in park bathrooms. We put up some security cameras, and no sooner did one go in, we got some nice footage of a young person going into the bathroom that we discovered was vandalized the next day, and we didn't have proof proof, but we did have a conversation with this person, and vandalism has gone down markedly. Now the word is out that there are cameras, and we're hoping that this really, curbs it. It's been Main Street, Madrona, and Gentle Woods, and so we're hoping that all that starts to calm down a little bit. The next meeting is in September. It's a small parks tour. I will be gone. Director Cooper will be gone, and so Operations Manager Johnson will be taking folks around to the small parks. We're going to use the senior center van and just make the tour. So if anybody is interested in that. And finally, just north of town, we have a new multifamily development going in, and part of what they've done is they're going to dedicate a completed, ready-to-go park to the city, and it will need a name. And so we're working through what's the process that we're going to use to figure out how to name it. So, each time this comes up, we kind of edge a little bit closer to how can we get some public involvement. Ideas are on the table. We'll hear more about that going forward. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Overs, that was that MyNet that helped put those cameras in, I think?
I didn't know that.
Yes.
No, I had not heard that. Good. No, thanks. Yeah, thanks. And that makes sense. That makes perfect sense with the hot spots around town.
Yeah.
No, I was not aware that MyNet had done that directly, but it is not surprising.
I think Public Works probably had a hand in it too.
Yeah, they probably drove the screws.
All right, other boards and commissions, Councilor Salinas Olivares.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Coons. So the Historic Commission met on August 3rd, and we discussed 3 proposals for historic architect services. And this is for the Evangelical Church on Monmouth Avenue. And the committee, they went through, Ms. Duffner, put together some great criteria for the RFPs. And the consensus of the group was to enter into an agreement with Peter Major Architects based upon their experience and familiarity with smaller city historic projects. So that's going to be exciting. The commission reviewed the mural flyer that one of our commissioners, Dijkstra, developed. I probably pronounced Dijkstra. Thank you. As for the mural that has started on the PCL building. If you have not gone to see the progress, it is absolutely lovely. It's exciting, and there's a flyer that will tell you a lot about the mural, and the artist is very approachable and is happy to answer any questions that you have. So the mural has started. And then mention the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration that will happen on September 24th at Main Street Park from 12 to 5. There will be ballet folklorico, there will be live music, there's going to be a free photo booth, the library is giving out free bilingual books to children. There's going to be a community mural that the community can participate in, so there's a lot of really fun activities for the community and families. So I hope that everybody can come out for that. And then we talked about preparations for the upcoming Columbus Day Storm celebration in October, and made contact with the Monmouth Senior Center, Community Center, about possible dates to host an in-person event with a speaker, an ice cream social, and community members to share their stories. Thank you. That's all I have.
Great.
What?
Okay, Councilor Carey.
The Planning Commission met on August 4th, and it was kind of an emergency meeting because they've not been meeting, because they typically meet on Wednesday, and that's music in the park and so on. This was an important meeting and an important sort of a milestone for our package 2 of the code, Monmouth Code, building code review and so on that is going on. Transportation, zoning, a lot of, and housing in particular, and a lot of material there. That's an interesting process, and I'm learning more about it, and there's a lot of good thought that's gone into this. It will be incumbent upon us to decide what works for Monmouth and what doesn't. I can assure you there's a lot that's in it that will work, in my opinion. Also, in my opinion, there's some that won't work. I think we talked about some of that perhaps last time. One of the constraints that we have with this is the contract that we have with Sarah Breakstone, and she's presented to us before, and she's very good, very knowledgeable. But she's under contract with TGM for us only a certain amount of time, certain amount of meetings, and so forth. So as this, and that includes both council and planning commission. And so I think what we're hoping that we're going to be able to do, and I had a conversation with Suzanne about this, that we can find a way to take this in sort of bites, little chunks. So, with the discussion we had today on Jackson, we don't have to throw the whole thing out because at Jackson Street, rescue aisle. But yet we don't, in this case, we swallowed John's distaste of that, but in a larger zoning thing and housing thing, it might be a little more difficult to live with longer. So it's a good process. It's one that it's going to require us to have our ankles taped and be ready to go when we get going, when this comes to us as it comes. Now, to that point, in the mayor's or in the city manager's Friday notes, there's a piece in there on the housing production strategy, which is different than this code review, but related. I'd encourage you to click on the link, read the material, and you'll become more conversant with this whole business. And then there's a survey at the end. So it's a good learning tool. It's a good way to provide feedback in a way, this way. So I'd really encourage you, if you haven't done that, go back into those Friday notes and click that link, and you'll be ahead for doing that. And the planning commission is not going to meet again until perhaps the 7th of September. It's going to kind of depend on, we're going to have to rely on Suzanne to do some definitional stuff at different times along the way because of the contract that we have. But they're sort of not going to do anything again until I think the 7th is the next time we're likely to meet. So anyway, longer than anticipated, but there you go.
Councilor Carey, if I may, you'll be happy to know I've actually sat through an entire seminar on housing production strategies.
Perfect.
At the spring League of Oregon Cities conference. I haven't looked to see if they're offering that same seminar at the fall one, but if it is offered, it was incredibly valuable, wonderful use of my time. At least at that point, they had posted some of the videos and some of the recordings and things from that on their website. I don't know if those are still up or not, but another wonderful resource regarding housing production strategies.
Good tip.
And then I'd like to give my report. I'll be brief. Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance met on August 11th. And the big news out of that meeting is the current NOFO, Notice of Funding Opportunity. I know we've discussed a lot about homelessness as a rising issue here. Each NOFO that comes down through HUD, and the workflow of this is that HUD filters these things through the continuums of care. The continuums of care advertise it locally. So we're under a very tight time frame with this. As with everything, the feedback was given about that to HUD, and I'm sure they filed it wherever they file that. But the due date for putting an application in is the 31st of this month, August 31st. So pretty tight. We are in our feedback to HUD. We did note that puts an extraordinary burden on smaller providers, organizations that don't have a lot of dedicated staff for this. That really makes it difficult for them to meet these deadlines. So hopefully they'll hear a little bit of that and give us more time in the future. But yes, this NOFO is specific to unsheltered populations. And trying to channel monies to organizations that are specifically creating programs to meet that need and serve that populace. And then the Arts and Culture Commission is going to meet this Thursday. We have a slightly different time. We're meeting at 6:30 instead of 7, and we'll be meeting here in this building. And that concludes my reports.
Great, thank you. All right, seeing no others, we'll turn it over to our city manager for your report. Thanks.
Thank
Marty.
you. Thanks, Mayor and Council. And I guess I just want to echo the encouragement that we just heard about the virtual open house and survey that's out about the housing production strategy. We're encouraging community members to also learn more and take part in that. So thank you for mentioning that. Another survey that's out in the world, in the community, that we're looking for feedback from the community about is our trolley service. And I've long owed the council an update on what's going on with the trolley service, and I'll be bringing that to you at our next council meeting. But in the meantime, we have ideas about the way we might brand that service or the identity for how you'll recognize the trolley and recognize that it's a transit service that's coming our way, with a survey that's got some sample examples of logos in it. So that survey is open now, and we're encouraging the community to weigh in about what resonates with them. I'd like to echo the comment too about our City Hall demolition event. I thought it was really successful last week, and demolition continued into the week, as you can now see at the lot next door. Everything's gone, right? So I just wanted to mention too that almost all of the project elements are out to bid right now. Swinnerton Builders, our contractor, has most of the elements of the project out to bid, and we're expecting proposals back August 23rd. So we'll learn a lot more at that point about the costs and what our guaranteed maximum price for the project will be. So that's an important step that's coming up here soon. Back on August 8th, our homelessness prevention work group for rural Polk County met, and this has been one of the most interesting meetings that we've had so far. We heard from housing providers, the Northwest Housing Alternatives, the Housing Authority, West Valley Housing Authority, and Polk CDC spoke about the barriers and opportunities to providing housing to people who experience homelessness, but also about barriers and opportunities to provide affordable housing generally. So that was interesting, and I think the work continues with that work group to sort of do an overall assessment of what we experience now with an eye toward what are effective prevention approaches to addressing homelessness. So that's a report on that work continuing. And then finally, on the staffing front here at the city, in our effort to try to reach full staffing in our departments, we've had vacancies in almost every one of our city departments. We have 2 candidates who are moving forward in the police department toward hiring, and they passed their backgrounds, and that's positive news. We've done hiring and made offers and have accepted offers in our finance department and also in Power and Light, although we still have another vacancy there. And then we still have a couple of vacancies, one in our wastewater treatment specialist position, and the communications coordinator job is open and it closes this week. So I'll be looking forward to introducing you to lots of new staff people here in the near future, and we're excited to bring new folks aboard to do this work. So we're still working on filling positions in the city. And that's all I've got, unless you have questions.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. That brings us to some brief council comments before we adjourn to our Urban Renewal Agency meeting. I just want to remind folks we have canceled the first meeting in October. So Tuesday, October 4th, we will not be meeting for council. That's because several folks have to be in Bend to prepare for the League of Oregon Cities Fall Conference. If you had either registered for that and didn't arrange lodging, or you hadn't registered and need lodging, let me know, because I made arrangements for some lodging that I won't be able to attend. So I can share that with you. Other council comments or yes?
I just want to say congratulations on your Mayor's Leadership Award, because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's hugely well-deserved. I have observed that we have 5 governments overlaid in Monmouth. We represent one in which you are involved. You are also involved directly with the school district and with the university. The only thing you're not directly involved with, Polk County and the fire district, right? And the ability to talk with those, have those 3 groups talk to each other as closely as they do through you is huge. It has really improved the functioning of stuff in Monmouth, and I really want to congratulate you. It is very, very well deserved, and I've been so impressed with the work you're doing. Keep it up. And that's all I have.
And guess what? George Endicott is retiring.
I heard John McCardle told me this huge list of mayors that are retiring. It just blew me away. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. Councilor Carey?
I should have mentioned this, tag this on top of the destruction. I hope we can find creative uses for those large beams. Those are 45 feet long, and we just, according to
my pace off is about somewhere in the neighborhood of 45.
I mean,
40
if
to
there's
45.
impressive.
Harbors out there.
Quite
if
impressive,
there is,
yes.
I mean,
We're working on it. It's a dance of salvage work with our demolition and our contractor, and also, whether we can cost effectively repurpose them. We can imagine lots of benches and conference tables and creative ways we might use them.
totems.
Right. So we're working on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, Councilor Lopez.
And as per usual, I will be out at Music in the Park tomorrow evening with tables set up. I understand that Councilor McKeel will be joining me, and there's an open opportunity to anyone in this room and in the community come and hang out, watch some live music, and if you want, you can chat with any of us. And I understand that the bar has been set pretty high that we will be now providing Otter Pops. So come and get your Monmouth City Council Otter Pop.
You'll need extra ice. Our Polk County Emergency Manager has advised that we're back up near 100 tomorrow on Thursday.
Yeah.
All right. A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you. None opposed. The council is adjourned, and we'll switch our hat, and our recorder secretary switch her typing where she's typing us in. We will at this point I would like to call to order the Tuesday, August 16th meeting of the Monmouth Urban Renewal Agency, and get the roll call, please.
Ms. Belts is excused. Mr. Carey,
Here.
Mr. Lopez,
Here.
Ms. McKeel. Here. Mr. Oberst,
Here.
Ms. Salinas Oliveros,
Here.
Ms. Kuntz.
I am present, and did we have any citizen comments submitted for the Urban Renewal Agency Board to hear?
We did not.
All right, thank you. That takes us to our consent calendar. This body last met on June 21st, and minutes of that meeting are included in your packet. Entertain a moment.
Move approval.
Corrections or additions, or?
You've got a motion, a second.
All right, hearing no corrections or additions, a motion to approve the consent calendar from Councilor Oberst and a second from Councilor Carey. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. And one item on our business agenda tonight. So our facade grants, our urban renewal fund that we just talked about as a way to really improve local businesses. We have an actual application to consider. So we will turn this over to the city's Economic and Community Development Director and Planner, and whole planning department again, I understand.
Yeah, the Department of One. So, well, and an intern though, so you don't forget Ella. She is a very mighty
Lost
helper.
Liz Pongratz.
Yeah, sadly,
Yeah.
she moved.
Folks, we're familiar with that, but
Yeah.
wish her well moving.
We do Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Albuquerque, New Mexico.
So yeah,
Oh,
very
wow.
hot, but wish her well for sure. So yeah, thank you for acknowledging that.
Yep.
And thank you for the introduction for our next general assistance grant request. We've had quite the interest lately, so I'm not sure what's working right now, but hopefully we can keep them coming. So very excited to introduce this application for Sing Fe Restaurant, a grant request in the amount of $15,000. So as you probably all very familiar with Sing Fe, a very prominent building located on the corner of Monmouth Avenue and Main Street as our entrance to the university. Been serving Chinese food to our local students and community for over 15 years. So definitely a staple in our town. And the owner is looking at making some major renovations to the interior of the building, to divide the space into a separate family dining area and then the bar area that will have also a stage for music, and about a karaoke stage to maybe be able to try that out. The upgrades include remodeling the bathrooms to make them ADA accessible. And so quite an extensive work. There have been drawings prepared by an architect. A copy of the floor plan has been included in there. And I can also confirm, since the grant application was prepared, the owner's representative have submitted building plans as well, building permits, and are in the process of getting those approved. So total estimated cost of the project is just under $77,000. Work would be completed by licensed contractors and beginning just as soon as we can get those permits approved. So hopefully here it comes in September, work would begin. And the business owner is requesting 20% of the project costs. So the $15,000, which well exceeds the 50% minimum grant requirement. So leveraging our dollars even more than the minimum that our grant program requires. In terms of the criteria that the Urban Renewal Agency uses to approve these grant requests, we look at whether or not the project is consistent with the goals and policies of our urban renewal plan. And this project is definitely consistent with those goals to preserve our historic buildings and stimulate private investment and the redevelopment of existing properties. So we're helping spur that, which is one of the most common uses of urban renewal, to provide some financial incentives to help further that along and serve as a catalyst. So staff is recommending approval, subject to the owner signing the usual grant contract requirement that has a number of stipulations on there. And then we're also working with Mandy and owners of the Sing Fe restaurant to look at a kind of a second phase to work on the exterior facade grant, working with the historic architect on that as well. So hope to be able to bring that to you in the future, but wanted to get the inside up and going. So owner is thankfully weathered the COVID challenges and stayed with us, and we want to keep her here for the future as well. So there are alternatives here in the packet on what you can do when you're ready. There's also a copy of the grant application attached. And I noted we do have available funds for the grants that have been budgeted for this fiscal year 23. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. And we also have Mandy, the owner of Sing Fe, is here with us tonight to help answer questions.
Thank you. Mr. Oberst.
So I first want to note that I have a good friend in Portland who has come down here and eaten at Sing Fe, and despite having access to a huge number of Chinese restaurants in Portland, says this is the best he's ever had. So I will pass that along. We as a family, since COVID, we've been carrying out more, but we've eaten there many, many times. Glad to see the interior modifications proposed here. I think this is a good plan. I'm also really pleased to see the notion of moving forward towards a facade grant, in part because I've noticed rotted wood on the outside of that building for 15 or 20 years now. Last time it was just painted over. So it's time on the exterior too. But, you know, I'm totally supportive of this, this interior modification. I'm excited to see this notion of sort of a two-part restaurant. So good plan.
Counselor, Mr. Carey.
I think we should be very supportive of this for two reasons. One, and I appreciate the focus on ADA accessibility and bringing that up to speed. And I know that would be required, but nonetheless, that's an important part for us and for our values here. And support investment in our downtown.
Yep.
You're laying some money out there and you're going to get it. And if we can help, we want to do that and encourage others to do the same. Thanks for your leadership on this.
Yes.
I would just
McKeel?
like to get the motion going.
Okay.
I move to approve the general assistance grant application for $15,000 for Sing Fei Restaurant located at 198 Main Street West.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. McKeel, for the motion, and Ms. Lena Oliveros for the second. Any other questions or comments? Nope. I think this will be an easy vote, but I will ask anyway. All in favor of this grant application, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? None. So that was great. I'm glad you asked, so we have this opportunity to have support.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cannot thank you enough for all you do in our community, and especially supporting the students of Western. And the thought that you might have had to close is heartbreaking for many of us. So
Yes.
thank you. We're
Thank you
glad
for
we
saying-
can
Thank you.
do this, and agree with Mr. Opers that we would love to help with the facade when that time comes. Such prominent buildings. So thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for, yes, thank you also for, yeah, so, we love this morning, and I can see this improve, and, become very beautiful and, clean. You can see street. When I go, driver to work, I feel very happy and comfortable. The main street.
You're part of it. You're part of it.
You are a part of that success. So
Yes,
thank you.
exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and that brings us to adjournment.
I'll make that motion again.
Thank you, Mr. Oberst. All in favor of adjourn, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And seeing none.